One of the three, if not the most prominent website that I check on at least 4 times a day, is worldnetdaily.com. Jerome Corsi writes for them, and the man who controls all is kind of like the Barack Hussein Obama of the Internet, that being a Joseph Farah of worldnetdaily.com. And Joseph, welcome again to the Bill Cunningham Show.
Thank you, Bill. It's a great pleasure to be with you. If I wasn't talking to you, I'd be listening to your show like I do every Sunday night.
Ann Dunham, you have a posting tonight that you're on this story, and the other media is not because of what it would mean for the country. But you have a posting tonight written by Jerome Corsi of Obama's Mama's 6 Lost Months. And I've read previous postings by Jerome and others on your website about the shortness between August 4th of 1961 and her arrival in Seattle, Washington, about 15 days later. Kind of give the essence of the story about Obama's mama, which is Ann Dunham's lost 6 months.
Yeah, well, starting in February, when 1961, when Barack Obama Sr. and Ann Dunham apparently married, although there's no marriage certificate, just like there's no birth certificate, Bill, there's no marriage certificate. We only know the date of the marriage based on a divorce certificate, which has been made public. Anyway, Ann Dunham basically falls off the face of the earth during her pregnancy. This person that we've got lots of records from, she was in school in Hawaii leading up to this. We don't know where she lived. We don't know what she was doing, if anything. And, you know, people say, okay, well, she's pregnant. Maybe she's just getting ready for motherhood. But then the shocker is that if indeed Barack Obama is born on August 4th, 2 weeks later, as you point out, she's enrolled in school in Seattle, Washington. And yes, indeed, she was a resident in Seattle, Washington. Now, I want to point out how weird this is, Bill. It wasn't until 1972 that airlines permitted newborns to fly on airliners.
Right.
And so how do you get from, the birth hospital, presumably in Hawaii, as we keep hearing about, to Seattle, Washington in 2 weeks if you don't fly on an airline? And furthermore, back in those days, the routine was to be in the hospital for 5 or 6 days after giving birth.
Yeah, because when my son was born in 1973, it was typical for 4 or 5 days. You have a posting that Dunham's transcript from the University of Washington documents she was enrolled for 2 extension courses beginning August 19th, 1961. You have her grades up there. So assuming Obama was born August the 4th, she couldn't have taken a boat. She couldn't have taken a train. She couldn't have taken a car. She couldn't have taken the space shuttle. The only way to get from Honolulu to Seattle, Washington would have been by plane. And until 1972, airlines did not let babies fly, because we're talking here about a 14 or 15-day-old baby boy who would have weighed no more than 6 or 7 pounds to take a 5-hour flight. The airlines would have said no.
That's right. I believe the restriction was 6 weeks. The child had to be 6 weeks to get on an airliner in those days.
So what happened?
Well, who knows what happened, but that's why we continue to report this stuff, because there are so many unknowns. And I would submit, Bill, the unknowns are greater than the knowns. It's not just the question of, was Barack Obama Sr. the dad and was Ann Dunham the mom, or where everything is up for grabs as far as I can see here. Where the birth took place, when. I don't think we know anything with any certainty at all.
And it goes further, because you've reported previously that every president, at least since Kennedy, has signed releases that would allow grade school, high school, college, in this case law school records released. Everyone since Kennedy, because of Kennedy's Addison disease, signed releases releasing all the medical records. Obama's not released Occidental College records from California, which may indicate that he was a citizen of some other country. It may have been a foreign exchange student, doesn't release the records. Columbia. I've had on classmates of his allegedly in Columbia University that fail to remember him at all. University professors. If you had a tall Barack Hussein Obama in New York City in the early 1980s, wouldn't you remember someone like that? The answer is there's no record, and he won't release his records.
That's right. Again, it's his entire life is secrecy. What we know, or what we think we know, is basically based on his autobiography, which, I guess we could just accept the word of a politician that everything he wrote in his autobiography is the gospel. But, color me skeptical. I want to see presidents establish their constitutional eligibility for the highest office in the land.
And Joseph Farah, you're not saying he was born in Kenya, and you're not saying he was born in Pakistan. You're not saying he was born in Timbuktu. What you're saying is, why can't we deal with Obama by the same standards we've used to deal with every other president and simply present us the records?
Especially when we have a guy who pledged that as president he would run the most open and transparent administration in American history. Bill, I'm just offended that the constitutional eligibility of our president has been established and authenticated by the Annenberg Foundation's factcheck.org and by, a little known bureaucrat in the state of Hawaii without verification by Congress, the Federal Elections Commission, the Electoral College, the Supreme Court, or any other accountable public institution in America. That's what I'm concerned about. That's why I have relentlessly pursued this story and even made it a personal cause with a billboard campaign across this country.
Joseph, when I talk to my fellow kings and queens of talk radio privately, they tell me that they don't want the rug pulled from under them. They don't want to be out on the limb when it's sawed off. They don't want to go out on the birth certificate issue too far, because if Obama gives permission to Governor Lingle in Hawaii and the director of the Bureau of Vital Statistics to release those records, the long-form birth certificate, and it proves, in fact, he was born there, they're going to be made to look like fools. Why have you made that trip when the kings and queens of talk radio refuse?
Because that's what I want to see. I want to see the birth certificate. I'm not, not just the birth certificate. I want to see all the other documents you talked about, too. I'm not worried about the rug being pulled out from under me. If we ever see a birth certificate, Bill, it's going to be because of the hard work that, you and I did and the people who are not afraid of having the rug pulled out from. As journalists, when we pursue facts, we're really pursuing facts. And we shouldn't be afraid when the facts come out if they're not what we expected or not what we liked. We're pursuing the truth here, no matter what it is.
One of the most damning facts against this argument is the fact that the Honolulu Advertiser on August the 9th, 1961, some 5 days after his alleged birth, had a posting of his birth. And I asked an expert on this about a month ago who said, now, the reason Dunham put that in the newspaper in Honolulu was because she feared that the Obama Sr. would take his son to Kenya, and she could never prove he was born in Honolulu, and possibly he was born in Kenya, and that the grandparents put the posting in Honolulu so that he could become an American citizen.
Well, let me tell you what I think about that. Number one, the first news organization to report on the Honolulu Advertiser's birth announcement was WorldNet Daily. Just like almost everything we do know about this case was first reported here. We reported it. We didn't say, gee, this shatters our illusions about what happened here. Let me tell you how newspaper birth announcements were done in 1961 in Hawaii. They were not placed by parents or grandparents. They were placed by the Public Health Department. When a certification of live birth is issued today, or a birth certificate is issued today, or in 1961, the Public Health Department sent notices to newspapers. So it shouldn't surprise us. I fully expect that there is a certification of live birth in Honolulu for Barack Obama. I just don't believe that has any veracity as an actual documentation of the fact that he was born there. Because people could get those things who were born out of state, who were born out of the country. Right. It simply took one affidavit, one signature from one parent to get one of those things. And
there was an advantage for Stanley N. Dunham or whoever the mother is to make that, to establish citizenship.
That's right. The newspaper announcement is meaningless, as is the certification of live birth as an act. Look, there's no witness. In a hospital birth, you have a doctor. He's not going to make up the fact that somebody was born and he delivered a child. That's why the original long-form live birth certificate is so significant, because there's a witness. There's a hospital, an institution where the birth took place, a physician who delivered the child. That's what we want to see. We don't even know what hospital he was born in.
There's two, and there's conflicting data on that. How do you respond to your buddies on the left, like Keith Olbermann or others, who take a page from the Saul Alinsky book about mocking and ridiculing everything they do, and they want to paint the birthers with the same brush as those who find a Pepsi-Cola machine on the moon, or those who believe that Neil Armstrong never walked on the moon? I've met him 3 or 4 times. They want to picture you as some sort of right-wing or left-wing nut, paranoid schizophrenic with affective components, and they want to foreclose debate about the issue by mocking those who bring it up.
Well, as long as they spell my name right, and as long as they keep naming me the worst person in the world, I figure I'm doing something right.
Well, I've gotten that 6 times. How many times have you been the worst person?
3 or 4.
I've gotten 6.
You're way ahead of me.
So
I envy you.
Do you think? Can you imagine the constitutional crisis we would have if there came out some irrefutable fact that Barack Hussein Obama is not constitutionally eligible to be the president? I would think maybe 100 American cities would burn, and Joe Biden would be the president, and neither one of those are good.
Well, unfortunately, as a journalist, what we have to do is we have to pursue the truth and let the chips fall where they may. I think we have a constitutional crisis right now, Bill, when Congress and the president are trying to ram down socialized medicine down our throats. There's no constitutional basis for a program like that, or practically any other program that they have promoted.